The title of this story is Some Kids Were Kicked in the Head by a Horse. I'll begin by saying that when I was a kid growing up in New York City, we had a couple of kids who were really weird. One kid would hang off a building for 5 cents. Another kid would allow you to punch him in the stomach for 5 cents. Now, when the older people, who were mostly Irish immigrants, saw this, they would say almost in unison, "These kids act like they were kicked in the head by a horse." And it just became an expression to mean that their thinking is a little weird, or they just don't seem normal. So the old people would say Billy was kicked in the head by a horse, Jimmy was kicked in the head by a horse. Just an expression, indicate there was something erratic about the child. Now, this is my story and not their stories. And what happened to me is very similar to getting kicked in the head by a horse. Because getting kicked in the head by a horse is a life changer. What happened to me was also a life changer. I can't recall the exact age this happened, but in my street in New York City, the older fellas had a habit of beating up on those younger kids. It happened to me twice. Once, 2 older fellows were beating me up pretty badly. They had knocked me on the street, and they were kicking me, and I wet my pants, and I started to cry. Believe me, that day was a game changer. While laying on the ground, crying, my pants were soiled, I said to myself, this will never happen again. I'll kill the people who do this to me. That was the game changer. I didn't know at the time how much of a change it was going to be, but it's been huge. As you hear these stories go on here, you'll see how up to this point I think I was a nice kid. My mother thought I was a gem. My father didn't bother with me. So as far as my mother was concerned, and I was concerned, I was okay. However, when I got to the Catholic grammar school, things started to change in the 3rd grade. I started to open my mouth and talk back, which you don't do, at least in my generation, in Catholic schools. One particular day, I did something Sister Bernadette didn't like. She called me into the front of the class, and she beat me silly and told me that I will never touch another person's property. That was the beginning of my exposure to the nuns and Christian brothers in the Catholic schools. In the 4th grade, we had a big Christian brother teacher named Brother Michael, big guy. And I was accused of throwing another kid's jacket on the floor, which I didn't do. Brother Michael held me after the class was all gone, and he too beat the hell out of me, to the point that I was crying and I wet my pants. And after he was finished beating me, he held me and said, "Edward, I'm sorry." And I opened my mouth and said, "If you're sorry, why did you do it?" So now I'm into the mood of talking back to these teachers. When I got to the 5th grade, I got involved with a monster of a teacher. I don't mean monster, big size, but just a nasty guy. I think his name was Brother Ambrose. And he had a habit with a ruler of beating my knuckles. Whatever I was doing, he didn't like it. So he would ever put your knuckles out, and then with the ruler, he smacked my knuckles. And I had the same teacher in the seventh grade, and now things really started to change for me. I had the same brother Ambrose again in seventh grade, and I guess he got tired of beating me on my knuckles for talking back to him. Whatever I was doing, he didn't like it. And he sent me to the principal, Brother Victor, who I don't think anybody liked. He was mean. So I go see Brother Victor, and I explained to him why Brother Ambrose sent me there. And he said to me, I want to see your mother. Now, by him saying I want to see your mother, they recognized something was going wrong with me. I was becoming very rebellious against their authority. My mother came to see Brother Victor, and Brother Victor said to my mother, and this is another game changer. He said, your son is a wise guy, and if you don't straighten him out, we'll straighten him out. Now at this point, I'm going to stop and have my secretary read to you what a wise guy is according to the dictionary. And it's important to listen very carefully, because it's going to describe what I became as the years have gone by, being called a wise guy. Now here's my secretary, Cecil, who will read for you.
Okay. A wise guy, a person who speak and behave as if they know more than others. The second meaning is a person who is given to making conceited, sardonic, or insolent comments. The third meaning is a cocksure, conceited, and often insolent person, and smart aleck. And the last is a wise guy is a member of this thing of ours, more commonly known as the Italian Mafia, not necessarily a made guide, but you got to have an association with them.
So the first time I looked at that definition of wise guy, I shuddered because I realized I was a wise guy. I was. In that definition, almost word for word described me. And I think that's what caused most of my trouble, uh, especially in the Catholic schools. Uh, Eventually, I went to a Catholic high school, and here I became a punching bag for the Christian brothers. As early as the fourth grade, uh, we had a library class, which I thought was a waste of time. And I told the Christian brother, Brother Cadgeton, your class is a waste of time. Well, I guess wise guys talk that way. Brother Cadgeton took me to the front of the class, and now it was his turn to sock me around, punch me around. And then he sent me to the principal. And I went to see the principal, and he said, why are you here? And I told him exactly what I said to Brother Cadgeton. I thought his class was a waste of time. And the principal, he socked me around. I was coming a punching bag. In the fifth grade, at this juncture, we're going to take a break because I can't record too long for reason of logistics. We will continue at a later date with my saga about some kids get kicked in the head by a horse.